Rain hits the pavement hard enough to drown the city noise. Flashbulbs explode around you. For a second, it almost looks like a movie premiere. But nobody here is celebrating. You watch John Gotti step out of the car in a dark cashmere coat, surrounded by federal agents and hungry cameras. The man spent years walking through New York like he owned it, and maybe he did. Judges couldn't stop him. Witnesses disappeared. Cases collapsed. They called him the Teflon Don, because nothing ever stuck, until now. You can see it in his face tonight. Not fear, something worse. The realization that power only feels permanent, until the room finally turns against you. And on this morning in Manhattan, the room is gone. Only cameras remain. John Gotti, the last Don. Not in Manhattan anymore. The rain is gone. Instead, you stand in the South Bronx, years earlier, where the streets don't shine, they sweat. Trash burns in metal barrels. Smoke drifts low between broken buildings. Children move through the alleys like they already understand the rules. No one explains them to you here. You learn quickly anyway. A boy named John Gotti is here too. Smaller than the myth you just saw in the courthouse. Quiet, watching, always watching. You notice what he notices. The men leaning against walls like they own time itself. The way nobody questions where things come from. The way respect is never given, only taken. This is where it starts. Not with ambition, with recognition. You understand it before he does. In this place, power is not something you choose. It's something you learn to survive. And once you've seen it clearly enough, you don't forget how it feels. You start noticing how quickly the Bronx stops being just a place. It becomes a system. Everyone knows their role. Everyone understands the unspoken rules. And you begin to see something clearly. The men who take things are never questioned the same way as the men who don't. John Gotti is still young here. But he is no longer just watching. He is learning the rhythm of the streets in a different way now. Not from a distance, up close, where decisions don't stay theoretical for long, where hesitation disappears, because someone else will move first. And in this world, that's all it takes to get left behind. The first time you cross a line like this, it doesn't feel cinematic. No dramatic music, no speeches, no moment of transformation. Just cold air coming off the docks, and the sound of a truck engine idling somewhere in the dark. You watch the crew move carefully between shadows and steel containers like they've done this 100 times before. Maybe they have. John Gotti moves with them now, not as a kid standing on the sidewalk anymore, as part of the machine. And what strikes you isn't the violence, it's how normal everyone makes it look. Nobody talks much, nobody wastes movement. The streets trained them too well for that. This is how the city builds men like Gotti. Not overnight, one job at a time, one crossed line after another, until eventually, crossing lines starts feeling natural. By the winter of 1985, you can feel something changing in New York. The old rules still exist, but nobody fears them the way they used to. Paul Castellano arrives at Sparks Steakhouse like a man who believes the system around him is still stable, still loyal, still under control. But the street already knows better. You watch the snow fall quietly onto black cars and dark overcoats while men wait in silence for history to catch up. And somewhere across the street, John Gotti watches too. Not emotional, not hesitant, just patient. Because this isn't only a murder, it's a transfer of power. The moment the old Mafia starts dying in public, and the new version steps forward without asking permission. Now you start seeing him everywhere. Outside courtrooms, inside expensive restaurants, walking through Manhattan like the city belongs to him. And somehow, nobody can stop it. Case after case collapses around John Gotti like the rules simply no longer apply to him. Witnesses disappear. Jurors get compromised. Prosecutors stand in front of cameras looking exhausted while Gotti walks back into the street smiling like he already knows the ending. That's when the newspapers give him a name the entire country will remember. The Teflon Don, because nothing sticks, and maybe that's the moment everything truly changes. Not when he takes power, when he starts enjoying being seen with it. The old Mafia understood shadows, but Gotti understands cameras. You can feel the shift happening in real time. This isn't just organized crime anymore. It's becoming spectacle, and the more untouchable he appears, the more obsessed the government becomes with destroying him. By now, the government isn't just investigating John Gotti. They're hunting him. You can feel the obsession growing inside every surveillance van, every wiretap, every exhausted federal office buried beneath fluorescent light. Because every failed case makes him look bigger, and every public appearance makes the FBI look smaller. So the strategy changes. No more chasing street soldiers. No more waiting for someone low enough to flip. This time they want the man at the top. You watch agents sit for hours inside dark vans listening to endless recordings, cigarette smoke hanging in the air while cassette tapes spin late into the night. And, slowly, a different version of Gotti starts emerging. Not the smiling figure outside courtrooms. The real one, impatient, paranoid, careless with power. That's the danger of surviving too long. Eventually, untouchable men stop believing consequences are real. And once that happens, they start talking like nobody's listening. In the Mafia, loyalty is supposed to be sacred. At least that's what everyone pretends. But when prison starts feeling real, loyalty becomes negotiable. You can see it happening now. Inside dim back rooms and quiet conversations where nobody says exactly what they mean anymore. Because the FBI tapes changed everything. For years, Sammy Gravano stood beside John Gotti as one of the most feared men in New York. Together, they built power through intimidation, silence, and violence, delivered with absolute certainty. But the recordings reveal something dangerous. Gotti talks too much. He blames too many people. And eventually, he blames Sammy. That's the moment the foundation cracks. You watch a man realize he's no longer standing beside the boss. He's standing beneath him, and beneath powerful men. People disappear fast. So Sammy Gravano makes a decision the Mafia can never forgive. Not because he suddenly grows a conscience, because survival enters the room. And survival changes every rule. By 1992, the performance is over. No more smiling exits from courthouse doors. No more cameras capturing a man who looks untouchable. This time, the government came prepared. You can feel the difference immediately. The courtroom is colder, quieter, more certain, because now they have the tapes. Hours of recordings filled with the thing that finally destroys powerful men more often than bullets ever do, their own voices. And sitting inside that courtroom is Sammy Gravano, describing the empire from the inside with the calm precision of someone who already accepted the consequences. Murder, extortion, racketeering. One piece at a time, the myth starts collapsing under its own weight. You watch John Gotti sitting perfectly still while the image he spent years building begins to disappear in front of the jury. Not all at once, slowly, like a city finally waking up from a long illusion. Then the verdict comes. Guilty on every major count. And just like that, the most famous mob boss in America stops being a symbol of power and becomes a federal prisoner. Prison has a way of stripping mythology away from people, especially men who spent their lives performing power in front of cameras. Inside a concrete cell, reputation doesn't echo the same way. There are no crowds here, no reporters waiting outside, no expensive suits, just fluorescent lights, steel doors, and time moving slowly enough to make anyone confront themselves eventually. You watch the years settle onto John Gotti little by little. The city moves on without him. The Mafia weakens, the old codes disappear, and the man who once walked through Manhattan like he owned the future slowly becomes something far more ordinary. An aging prisoner growing weaker behind locked doors. By the early 2000s, cancer is eating through what remains of him. And maybe that's the final irony. For years, John Gotti looked untouchable. But time touches everyone eventually. Even kings, even legends. Even the men who believed the rules would never reach them. In the end, New York keeps moving. The traffic returns. The headlines fade. The streets forget faster than people expect them to. And somewhere inside that silence, the legend of John Gotti starts separating itself from the man he really was. Because power has a way of turning people into stories long before they're gone. You can still feel traces of him in this city sometimes. In the old restaurants, the darkened social clubs, the courthouse steps where cameras once chased him like a celebrity instead of a criminal. But those moments belong to another version of America now, one that romanticized men like Gotti while quietly ignoring the damage left behind them. And maybe that's why his story still lingers, not because he was invincible, because he understood something dangerous long before everyone else did. In modern America, visibility can feel more powerful than fear, but visibility fades. The cameras leave, the crowds disappear, and eventually even the loudest legends are swallowed by the same silence, waiting for everyone else. The last great mob boss didn't fall in a blaze of glory. He faded slowly, like the city finally stopped looking back.